So what's the impact of McConnell giving up the reins in the U.S. Senate? We go in depth tonight with one of the most respected political minds in Kentucky, former WDRB reporter Lawrence Smith. Welcome back. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you. Good to be here.
You have covered McConnell since the beginning, before the Senate, Jefferson County Commission, correct?
He was the Jefferson County Judge Executive the first time that I interviewed him in early 1980s.
So more than 40 years ago. Surprised by this decision?
Yeah, I was surprised. I'm not, of course, as plugged into him as I used to be, but yes, I'm very surprised by this. I think everyone is surprised. The talk had been whether or not he would first make it to the end of his term because of the health scares.
Right.
And second, if he did, would he run for re-election? I was surprised he stepped down as leader because he has a good chance next year of becoming Senate Majority Leader again. So it came as a shock to everyone, I think.
So let's talk impact now. How does McConnell, not at the helm, shift Capitol Hill and the Republican Party and politics in Kentucky?
It shifts all those things. He's been a steady influence in the Senate for so many years, so there's going to be a void there that someone is going to have to try to fill, and it won't be filled right away. It'll take time for that person to kind of gain the respect and notoriety and power that McConnell. But even more so, I think it'll leave a big void in Kentucky. Our state's been able to punch above its weight for quite a while because of McConnell's influence in Washington. Now Kentucky becomes another small state with him not in power anymore. So it'll be interesting to see how Kentucky is able to get the kind of goodies it's gotten from with McConnell being in charge when he's not in so much power anymore.
Or influence that national conversation. But let's talk about that tenure, that 40 years in the Senate. What do you think will be Mitch McConnell's legacy as leader?
There was a book written about him. It's called The Long Game. And I think that is his legacy. He was able to look ahead and see what was coming and make decisions not for the moment, but for the long game, for what he thought would benefit his party most. That'll be kind of his legacy on the national side.
Most notably, probably decisions that impacted the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court and federal judges. He remade the federal bench into more conservative judges on the Supreme Court and the federal bench. But we can't underestimate his impact in Kentucky. When he first ran for U.S. Senate, the Republican Party was almost non-existent in Kentucky. It was a dominant Democratic state. But through his work, his influence over the last 40 years, Kentucky's now become a red state, and McConnell has had a lot to do with that.
There is infighting in the Republican Party, an ideological divide within the GOP, as some would describe it. We saw House Speaker Kevin McCarthy ousted because of it. We saw the chair of the Republican National Committee announce her resignation recently. So to what degree do you think that this political or ideological divide weighed into McConnell's decision to step down as minority leader?
I think quite a bit. McConnell knows the party is shifting under his feet. The Republican Party is becoming more in the mold of Donald Trump, more isolationist, more populist. And McConnell has always been one that thought the U.S. should be one that is active on the global scale, is trying to dominate and influence and spread democracy around the world. So the party is shifting. So part of this could be his decision that, you know, this Donald Trump's party now, it's well known they don't get along at all. So maybe he's getting out of the way now and letting Donald Trump have his party.
You talked about Trump. McConnell obviously giving a blistering rebuke of President Trump after the January 6th insurrection. You mentioned that they don't get along. Do you think that the possibility of a second term with Trump in the White House was a factor in McConnell stepping aside?
I think it probably was. He and Trump were able to work together during his first term, as we said, to remake the federal judgeships and to remake the Supreme Court. But since then, the rift has gotten wider between Trump and McConnell. McConnell, of course, did not go along with the conspiracy theory about the 2020 election. He blamed Trump essentially for January 6th, although he did not vote for impeachment because he said Trump was out of office by then. But since then, Trump has just been blistering McConnell, insulting him, insulting Elaine Chao, his wife. So that rift has widened. So I think, yes, the prospect of a second term and being under pressure in this election to endorse Trump, all of that probably played a factor in this.
Too soon to talk about who steps up as minority leader in the Senate?
Probably so. The names you hear are Cornyn from Texas and John Thune. But it'll be essentially, I think, Trump's call. Whoever he endorses, whoever he wants will probably be the one that ends up being the Senate minority leader and perhaps after next year, the majority leader.
All right, Lawrence Smith, so good to see you, my friend. Thanks for unpacking it with us tonight.
Enjoyed it.